Rice Fame Group supports the legacies of HBCUs. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're glad to have everyone here. This is season 4 of Chat with HBCU Champions, hosted by me, Lacey L. Rice Jr., the Executive Director of Rice Fame Group. And today we have a special guest who is Delaware State University volleyball coach, or head coach, David Brooks. And he brought a special guest with him. His program won the 2024 MEAC, Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Championship this year. And so congratulations, Coach. We're glad to have you here. You're not a stranger. You were here once before with a different school, but congratulations at your new program, which actually proves that you are a winner.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so you brought a special guest with you. Please introduce your guest.
This is our assistant coach, Victoria Wilform, and she's been with us for 2 years at Delaware State ever since I got here. But we actually go back farther than that, in that I was her coach for club for 3 years. And then she went on and played collegiately at Appalachian State for 4 years. And so it was just a cool way to get to reconnect with a former player.
Oh yeah, that's terrific. And so I'm wondering, did you have any inkling that you were going to get into the coaching career?
I had no inkling at all, actually. I knew I wanted to be a coach. I actually coached some club myself. I was doing private lessons, still finishing my grad program. So that was kind of the coaching I thought I saw myself doing for sure. Just kind of staying, with the youth and in the local area. So getting the call from Coach Brooks to come, join him at the Division I level as an assistant coach was just a dream come true, truly. And it was very easy, yes. So I'm so happy that I decided to make the move up to Delaware State, and we have a great team, and it paid off. So it's been fun.
Okay, well, since he brought you here, we're going to include you in this. And my first question to you is going to be, or my next question to you is going to be, so what is it easier coaching under him or playing for him?
Ooh. That's a really good question. I mean, probably easier playing for him. I think just as a coach, I think it's just hard in general. Like the job is just tougher. So it just comes with more challenges. I think just as a player, he just kind of sets the expectation and you meet it. And as a coach, I think it's, he has your expectations for you, but also the team. So you kind of have to make, you can be doing everything you need to do, but you kind of have to make sure that the players are kind of following along too. So it's a little bit harder, I think, just in the coaching role in general. But I mean, I think I have it made truly. I have the best thoughts in the nation, where it's just easy all the way around to do my job. So.
Okay. And you were at Appalachian State, which is actually a PWI, D1. Now, how is that transition being, or playing in a D1 PWI and then transitioning over to a D1 HBCU?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the differences, just kind of coming in. For me, I've kind of just made it my mission to be kind of the spokesperson for what HBCUs can become and what can I bring from my experience into the HBCU world. And I think it's been, a great kind of just thing for me to kind of add to the program as well. So, of course, there are some differences, but I think, we have our culture here that you're not going to find at the PWIs as well. So I think it's special, and I love that I can add on my 2 cents and just, hey, like, this works here, let's see if we can make it work here at Del State.
Okay, all right. All right. Well, Coach Brooks, we're coming right back over to you. And um, can you tell us a bit about your career, you know, your athletic career as well as your coaching career?
And it's funny because they're very different in that athletics, I was a baseball player. I always envisioned myself being a baseball pro player, and then maybe a baseball coach. And that's just not the way it went. Volleyball kind of found me when I was a teacher in North Carolina at a high school. That was literally the first job that came available was a little ninth grade volleyball position. And I thought I never had a chance because I never coached volleyball before, but that's what the coach wanted. He wanted somebody that didn't know volleyball so he could teach him his way. And literally now, 18 years later, I'm coaching D1, and it's like, how did I get here? But I like that, it truly is I made every step. I started with ninth grade ball, then I had a varsity team in high school, then I was an assistant coach at a PWI at Division II level. I was a head coach at Elizabeth City, where I found some success, and then to be here, it was unreal to get to play Penn State this year. Like we literally got to play the national champions, and it's just like a lot of times I picture myself like, how did I actually get here? But I think it's when I really think about it, it's my parents told me I could do like anything I dreamed of, and they just instilled in me hard work, and so I feel like looking back, I've just worked hard these last 18 years, and it has paid off. And it's paid off in my career, and it's paid off in the athletes that I've been able to coach.
Okay. All right. So tell us a bit about your team. Who are some of your major players and how did you come about getting some of
So we were lucky in that we came into a strong team. We took over. It's not often that you get to leave a champion at the D2 level and then take over a champion at the D1 level. So that was what was so attractive, is that we didn't have to come in and rebuild. We literally had to come in and take over a team that had won it the year before. And so we had some strong players already. Valeria Otero, she ended up coming back last year for her fifth year for a chance to win her second, and she led our team in kills in the championship. Alondra Maldonado, who was the 2022 tournament MVP, she came back for her fifth year. And then we had a libero come in for her fifth year transfer from North Carolina A&T, another HBCU that actually played for me in high school. And so we had that fifth year, kind of three strong fifth year leaders. But then I think a big, we brought in two big time transfers. One of them 2 years ago, Garen Conlon came with us. She transferred from Old Dominion. And she had a good sophomore year here, but this year she just blew up. She really learned our offense, which is the fastest, definitely the fastest offense out of all the HBCU schools in the nation. But she just blew up. She had 366 kills. She broke the school record. She ended up being first team all conference. She ended up being tournament MVP. And so, we're glad that she gets to come back next year and try to do it again. And then we had another transfer come in, Leah Mitchell, and she came from Georgia State. And she was a kid that, she's kind of do everything. She was able to play outside. She was able to play right side. She was able to play middle. And we had some injuries. And so we ended up putting her in the middle at the end of the year, which a lot of schools hadn't seen her there yet. And, she hit 600 in the championship. I think if there's something that a lot of schools might look at, they're like, well, was he hiding this the whole year? Was this his plan? But it wasn't. We literally ran into the injury bug at the wrong time. But we really appreciate her. She was the total team player, and she was like, put me wherever we can win. And so she's coming back next year, which is great because it's when you have a kid like that, it's easy to build
them? Okay. So it sounds like you were loaded this year.
We were definitely strong this year. We won, and we had a lot of injuries. And Valeria, she had a heart issue, so she was out for half the season. We ended up losing our starting middle, who was first team all conference, first weekend of the year. And so, but the girls, they never gave up. They persevered. And so we talk about, nobody in the MEAC is going to feel sorry for us because we have injuries. You just got to move on. Everybody has injuries. And so finally, at the end of the year, I feel like we got hot at the right time. I don't think anybody going to that final weekend thought, oh, as the 3 seed, they're going to come in here and just run through the conference tournament. But especially with Howard going undefeated the whole year. I think everybody thought it was theirs to lose. But the good thing about volleyball is, anybody, or like football, any given Sunday. For us, it was a Sunday night, and it was any given Sunday. We played our best at the right time.
Okay. Okay. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned, going from a championship D2 program, HBCU program at that, to a D1, because of course we also sponsor the HBCU Makita Excellence Awards, and our first volleyball uh, awardees were Coach Atkinson and Miss Maldonado.
Oh,
They,
that's great.
they were they were our first two awardees, and those awards are, they're actually chosen by peer coaches.
Mm.
So, they recognize how strong Delaware State was that particular year. That was, I think it was 21-22. And like I said, Miss Maldonado, she was the player of the year. So, it was great that you ended up, having her as well. So,
And it's funny how the world is full circle in that I remember we had, went to the D2 tournament, and
mhm,
we lost in the first round. We were playing the number one seed, and we lost.
mhm,
And I flew home, and then that night I just turned on ESPNU, and there was the Delaware State, Coppin State, and I got to watch this girl, Alondra Maldonado, go off, and I got to watch this amazing just crowd, and I was just like, never really considered Delaware State, but I would add that to the list of schools I would love to go to. And then it just
mhm,
happened that Bruce ended up getting another job, and
mhm,
the stars aligned. But it was really cool that he came back for the championship this year. He was in the crowd watching, and I think when he won it 2 years ago, it was kind of like,
mhm,
oh, well, that was the first time they've won it in a really long time. And, it was just on
mhm,
the radar. But now we've won two out of the last three. We've done it with different coaches, and we've done it with largely different roster. And it's just like I think we're starting to show that, like, hey, this could be a dynasty. Like Delaware State's definitely a school that is going to be in that top three every year, and you got to worry about them come November.
right. Okay. Okay. Well, tell us about how your season went this year.
It definitely, again, we had some injuries at the beginning. I think non-conference, we knew we wanted to play some really hard teams. We knew that was going to help us, and even though record-wise, I think at one point we were 2-7, and I think if you weren't in the firm boat, believing like, hey, we're fine, like we definitely had to check some girls, because it was like, coach, we haven't been 2-7 in a while, like what's going on? But we knew, like, we were playing teams like University of Maryland, we were playing teams like James Madison. We were playing these teams that were in the tournament the year before. It's like, this is going to help us long term. And we knew that if we could just get the conference play, that's when we were really going to hit our groove. And I think conference play, it helped us that we had some injuries, because the first time around when everybody saw us, they didn't see our number one outside back. She's a true six rotation player. She won the championship, 2 years ago, and knowing that we were going to get her back, it was like, hey, everybody has to step up without her, but once we get her back, everybody's going to have that extra experience. And so I think even towards the end of the season, we had a weekend where we lost to Howard, and we lost a 5-setter to Norfolk, and it was just like, we're not hot at the right time, but it was that weekend that we kind of got hot after that. We won, I think, 6 in a row going into the tournament, and come tournament time, we just we love playing in our gym. Our gym is small. It's one of the smaller ones in the MEAC, but when we fill that place with fans, it's scary. And a lot of coaches tell me they don't want to play in that gym, because it's just you are right on top of the court. And we play well in that gym. And I think the girls, this was the last year that we were going to get to host it, and so it's like, okay, we won it 2 years ago. Let's go out on top. And they just did. They played with no fear. We had nothing to lose. I still remember Alondra and Val the year before. Howard had beaten us in the semifinals, and I remember then in the locker room, they cried their eyes out, because they were seniors. They thought that was it. That was their last game, and they both came back for their 5th year. We didn't have any tears in the locker room this time. It was a lot. It's a much different story. And even when we lost at Penn State, there weren't tears in the locker room, because it was a very different ending than the year before, when we felt like it ended a little shorter than it should have ended.
Okay. And I guess going back to what you were saying about your gym, people might not realize how loud of a sport volleyball is. And because especially, you're in a gym and you compare it to like women's basketball, yeah, you will hear the fans, but you don't hear the players. In volleyball, you hear the players and the fans. And so I can just imagine how, like you said, that can be very intimidating, especially in an intimate setting.
Yeah, and the athletics department does a great job, and the other teams come out. You know, the basketball teams were there, the equestrian team, the triathlon team, all the teams were there cheering us on. And so when we won, it was really a athletic department victory. And we just, we're sad that we won't get to host it next year, but the band was there, which is something that, and we also brought our band with us to Penn State. And Penn State commented on our band. Like, I think it's awesome that you can see an HBCU band. It's a little bit different than a PWI band. It's just, I think ESPN just kind of ate it up. It made for good television. We made it a little more dramatic than we had to, going 5 sets. We were up in the fourth set, 2 points away from a championship. But that just tells you how good Howard was. They left it all out there. They forced the fifth set, and so it made for some good television. I can watch back now and really enjoy it. During the time it was definitely stressful, but it was definitely just 2.5 hours of some of the best, definitely our best time here at Delaware State.
Okay. Now, most of the HBCU volleyball matches that I've been to have been during clusters, and so I've never seen a band. So what is that? I mean, what's that like? I mean, because I know during football games, the bands are not allowed, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. Why are you not allowed to play when I go to these Power Five or whatever it is now, Power Four or whatever it is? When I go to one of their games, their bands never stop playing throughout the entire game. But I come to an HBCU game and you have to stop playing when your opponents have the ball. So how is that in volleyball? Are they allowed to play the entire time? Do they have to stop or?
Yeah, it's the same in that you can't play during action. So they're playing usually just in timeouts, and in between sets, and and during challenges, and so there's definitely a lot of time for them to get into it. I remember our AD told us like, "Hey, the band's going to be here, and it's going to be loud. So when you call a timeout, if you need to go run outside to talk to your team, and I mean, you definitely during those timeouts we have to get close, and you can see all the girls looking at you because they're trying to read your lips because they now may not be able to hear what's coming out. But also it was good because it's the timeouts are a minute and a half, and we I don't have a minute and a half to say everything. We would say what we need to say, and then it was just guys enjoy this. Like this experience right here, you're not going to get this every day in your life. This is one of the top 5 moments you're going to have. Enjoy it. Enjoy this. That was the final words in the locker room. I'm like, just go out there and love this and enjoy it and play free. And I think that's what we did. You could tell, and it was the same when I was at my old championship when I was at Elizabeth City. I remember there was a timeout and they started playing swag surfing, and all of a sudden I saw my whole team start doing it. And in my head, I'm like, should I let them do that? But I'm like, you know what? Like, it tells me they're loose. It tells me like they are not worried about this moment. That they're just enjoying it, and that's what we needed. The girls, all in the end, they played loose and they went for it. And I think as a coach, you have to let them do that. Let them enjoy the experience. And I think the band really enjoyed it. We had our spring game just a couple weeks ago now, and even the crowd at the spring game is huge. And we play University of Delaware here, and they're a great team. They made it to the championship in the CAA, but they were impressed with how many fans we had at our game. It's like, yeah, everybody kind of knows, okay, volleyball game, it's not just a game, it's an experience. You're going to get to go and have some fun and get to see hopefully a good game.
Okay. Well, tell us a bit about your conference. This is your second year in being a coach in the MEAC. What's that like? And then also, how is it what's the difference between maybe the CIAA and the MEAC?
Yeah, I'd say last year, I think our team as a whole was learn. I think we had to learn our team, the team had to learn us, and then we had to learn the conference. I think the big difference between the CIAA and the MEAC is there's no nights off for MEAC. CIAA, you have those strong teams, Shaw, Fayetteville State, the ones that are traditionally strong, but then you'd have other games that you could take a day off. And in the MEAC, there's no days off. I think the big wake up point was like everybody has kids that are on full scholarships, and so there's no, even if it's not the team doesn't have 12, they have 4 or 5 full scholarship kids, and so it's a lot harder. I think we scout a lot more. I feel like in the CIAA it was more so, hey, we have the better kids. I think we're going to win because we're more athletic. Whereas no, in the MEAC you have to be more athletic and you have to have a better game plan. The MEAC has been historically strong. Howard has been a powerhouse. They put HBCUs on the map. They're the premier HBCU. We love having them in our conference because that's a game twice a year, and then hopefully a third time in the tournament that we know is going to be a really fun game. And they're huge across the front line. They have girls that tower over ours. Coppin State is another team. They won it last year. Tim has done an amazing job there, turning them into a powerhouse, and that's what we've done at BSU. And the three of us, even though we're competitors, we all root for each other outside of the MEAC because we want to see some respect. We want them to see that, just because it's HBCU volleyball, like these teams really can play. And so, all of us still believe that if they don't give us that number 16 seed, one of us is going to knock somebody off in the tournament one of these years. Mm-hmm. And that has been, the talk for us this spring is the girls, they want another championship, yes, but they're looking bigger. They want to let's go make some noise in that NCAA tournament. Because, it was a little bit of a shock and awe the first set against Penn State. But once we kind of found our groove, like, guys, hey, we belong here. Like, the second set was 25-21. And that was with the national champions, the team that won the entire thing. And after the game, I think the girls realized, because even the third set was right there the entire set. It was like, well, if we just would have, started that way, and this could have been something. We could have maybe won 2 sets, given them a game. And so our goal is to really, as a whole, put HBCU volleyball on the map. But it's a great conference. We love it, and I think it's been improved even from this year to last year. The bottom part of the conference or the middle part of the conference, we're seeing those teams come up, and so that helps because that you want that. You want those good games night in and night out. It's definitely. I think I've become a better coach coaching in this conference. Coaching great coaches, and so and NC Central, they just hired the old coach from Shaw who. I battled with many times, and we battled in the championship. He's a great coach. He's a championship coach, and so I know they're gonna, have a stronger year this year. So it's just, we look forward to just the battles. MEAC, Friday night and Sunday afternoon, we just know it's gonna be a battle.
Oh, okay. So that's where he went.
Yeah, he makes so we'll have some more battles like we had at BCSU with Shaw, and so it'll
right.
I think. The thing for us, the thing that I love, and we play a different style of volleyball than everybody else. Where when you see us walk in the gym, I think a lot of teams underestimate us because they see our size, and they see like, oh, their hitters aren't that tall. But we play with speed. We play with serious speed, and speed beats size. As long as we're in system, and that's when we played Howard, they had trouble with that speed. We played Penn State, they had trouble with speed because it's not something you see. And so for us, it's we that's how we recruit. It's a fun way to recruit because we can get some really fun players in here, some really athletic players that want to play fast. And so it's just very different, and it's hard for other teams to mimic because they don't have that speed in their gym. And so I feel like when we play them, it's different than everybody playing everybody else, which I think that has led to us winning 2 out of the last 3. And then for us, it's overtraining for us. We play fast every day in practice. Then when we play on Friday night, well, now the game slows down for our girls, and they get for seconds like, oh, this is a lot slower than we're used to, and it makes them play better. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Okay, so you have championship coaches in your conference, and the new one is bringing not only a conference championship but a national championship with them from the small college national championship. And so, do you think having coaches of your pedigree coming in will the help elevate the MEAC as far as visibility? Is there a way for the MEAC to take advantage of what you guys bring to the conference?
Yeah, I think so, because I think the other important part is not only getting these coaches, but keeping these coaches. You know, the Howard coaches won 6. Sean's won 6 championships. He's still at Howard. Tim won a championship last year at Coppin. He's still there. You know, it's not like they're winning these championships and then, okay, I want to run and go take another job. They're winning these championships and they're like, hey, you know, this is where we want to be. And so I think to have the last 3 coaches that won the MEAC still here, and then to bring in a coach that just won the NCAA, you know, I think the level is just going to improve. It's going to force everybody to improve. But I think as a whole, you know, you're not seeing girls leaving. Volleyball as a whole, I know I saw an article that for basketball, for men's basketball, you know, every single player that was first, second, or third team all MEAC transferred if they had eligibility. You're not seeing that in volleyball. You know, Ryan McKinnon over at Howard, 3-time MEAC player of the year. She's back next year at Howard. Stafford, Toppin's best player, first team all conference. She's back next year. We got Garen Tomlin coming back. We got like all of our all conference kids. The kids that are leaving volleyball are leaving because they're graduating. They're not leaving because they want to go somewhere bigger. And I think that just speaks to the level of the MEAC and just the culture of the MEAC, that these girls want to stay here. They want to play in these gyms, and they really want to, you know, yeah, I could go somewhere and maybe get more money, but I want to bring my team to that level. And I think, you know, as long as we can continue that, I think next year, again, I know we're going to be really strong. I know Coppin's going to be really strong. I know Howard's going to be really strong. I think we'll be able to open some eyes. You know, we got 2 Power 4 teams on our non-conference. We're playing Tennessee. We're playing West Virginia, both in New York City when we go to St. John's. And so, you know, I think, you know, we're going to show teams that, oh, like that team didn't make the tournament last year by mistake. 2 years ago, we got the first Power 5 win in school history with Syracuse. And Syracuse was down that year, and then they had some COVID issues, but it was still, I remember seeing it on the message boards. It was like, MEAC just housed ACC. And it was just like, that's what we want to see. We want people to see that, you know, the MEAC can play some volleyball.
Well, and you brought something up that's definitely been troubling me for the last so many years. And that's, I guess, how the transfer portal is used, because you know, as a former coach, I expect my athletes to have loyalty to my program, because and as a coach, I think it's not I don't think it's too much to ask for my athletes to expect loyalty from me to them. And you know, when you look at it, I remember seeing, and I'm not mentioning any names, but I remember seeing a quarterback, and he was in like his 5th or 6th year, and he was on with his 4th team. Like, come on, you know, and how are you going to develop? And he had a down year this year. It was like, yeah, you probably will if you're switching programs pretty much every year. You're not developing like you should. And then, you know, all these other athletes that I can't even watch football bowl games anymore, because these athletes are allowed to transfer before the bowl game even happens. They're in the portal, and so they're not playing in the game. And to me, it dilutes that game. And so, you know, it's great that you guys are not experiencing that. I love hearing that.
And I think it makes you have to coach differently. You know, you're not only do you have to recruit new players every year out of high school, you have to recruit your own team every year. And because they have people in their ears saying, well, go here, go here, go here. And so I think, you know, we're proud that we didn't have, so the spring window just opened this morning. It opened at this morning, and there's hundreds of names in there ready for volleyball. And we're proud we didn't have anybody enter because the girls, we have a group that they don't focus on their own achievements, they're focusing on the team achievements. And so many of the girls are, I can't wait till next year. I want to be in the championship again. I want to, have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. And so it's definitely making you focus a little bit more on, the culture of your team, making sure that all your girls are happy. But I mean, it brought in, two of our best players last year were transfers. And so we definitely, the best player on top, and she was a transfer. And so it's good that in volleyball, there are good players still transferring into our conference. We have a girl coming in next year that was the best player on Lafayette, led their team in kills, and she wants to come because she wants to go to an HBCU and she wants to win. And so it's good that, unlike other sports, volleyball, because I think the coaches have made it such a great league that is a lot of talent still transferring into the league, not transferring out of the league.
Okay. Okay. And so, you know, we definitely applaud you, for the achievements of your program this year. But tell us a bit about Delaware State. What kind of institution is that, and what are some of the major programs there?
I mean, it's an HBCU, obviously. It's, I would say, about 6,000, so it's a mid-sized school. I think it's the perfect, every time we bring a recruit on campus, it's the perfect size. Because it's big enough that you're not going to see the same person every day, but it's small enough in that you can walk everywhere on campus. And, the girls are famous on campus for being the champs. It's one of the only HBCU that have an aviation program, so that's big. A lot of the stuff on our team. We have a lot of business or sports management majors. We have some nursing. They just bought, right before we got here, they bought Wesley College and turned it into DSU downtown. And so we actually have two campuses. We have a main campus and we have a downtown campus. And so it's, as a whole, it's growing. I think it made waves in the athletics this year with the hire of Deshaun Jackson. I think that's, between him and Michael down at Norfolk, I think MEAC football has got to take another step up, and I think it's going to be in the national spotlight. But I love the school. I think it's in a great area. Delaware is a great area, and I think it's just a school that feels like home for me. And it's a school that a lot of the girls, they just love being at. Either we have a very international roster, but either they're from across the sea or they're from across the country. We have girls from all over, but they just love just the way the school feels. And for me, being a former teacher, it's important to me, the academic part of it. And so, our team GPA last year was 3.41. So we're very proud of that. The second we won that championship, we went and celebrated in the locker room. My first speech to them was, we got finals next week. We are champions, but that doesn't mean we're not done. We need to be champions in the classroom first. So that's the important part for me. I want to give the girls the best 4 years that they're here, but we want to set them up for the next 4 years. That when they leave here, hopefully they're leaving with a ring or two, but also they're leaving with a degree that's going to take them places. And I think that's the big thing. And our president Tony Allen has done a great job of making sure that a Delaware State degree does mean a lot, and it will get you the jobs that you want to get.
Okay. Yeah, but I had forgotten that Delaware State had merged or had actually kind of bought the other school. And let me see. There have been a few merges of HBCUs and PWIs. Not many, but a few. And I think the last one before the Delaware State merger was, I believe it was Albany State had absorbed a PWI down there in Georgia. And I believe all of them except for this one, if I'm not, unless I stand corrected, I think this was the first time that a public HBCU absorbed a private PWI, which is different. And so have those the people who tradition, because that hasn't happened that long ago. That's pretty recent. And so, have the students or the family from the PWI acclimated themselves to Delaware State pretty easily, or do you think there's been any hiccups, or
Yeah, I
how's that?
mean, when we got here, I think it was already absorbed. So it's all we've known, but I don't think you could tell who, if we saw people walking, we wouldn't know who came from where. And that's why I love the school. It's such a diverse school. We have so many international students, but it's just a diverse overall school. We're here on the main campus for volleyball or basketball and football, but a lot of our teams, baseball, soccer, they are on that downtown campus because they have great facilities down there. And so, but we're still one athletics program. It's funny because they actually have, we have two on-campus cafeterias, and then there's one downtown. And some of the girls are like, "Have you tried the cafeteria downtown? That food is so good, coach." And some of them will drive downtown, and granted, it's like a 5-minute drive. It's really close, but they'll drive downtown because they swear that food down there is better. Maybe it's because it's not as many majors down there. Nursing is down there. I think there's some psych classes down there, but the majority of stuff is on the main campus. But it's even though it's in two separate spots, it's one big family. And again, I don't think there's a way to see like, oh, who came from where. If everybody's a Hornet, and it's a good time to be a Hornet right now. I think we have a new AD that took over in January, and I think they're doing a lot to try to raise the expectations of the program and make it more visual overall across the nation. And we're excited that we were able to win that first championship for him, and hopefully we can win that second championship for him next year as well. But we're just excited for where the school's heading.
Okay, that sounds great. I mean, that sounds terrific, and I love hearing about that because there could be some issues with people wanting to hang on to the old versus you know making the necessary changes. And but hey, if things are going well, they're going well, and that speaks volumes for everyone who's been involved in that transition. So I definitely love that. Definitely love that. And so let's talk a bit about some of your influences. Who have been some of the people that influenced you as a coach?
Uh, whew. I think my biggest influence overall was my baseball coach growing up. He was a guy that he just always brought greatness out of me. He saw stuff in me that I never saw in myself, and he never let me quit on myself until I proved what I could do. And I think that's what made me want to be a coach, is just the influence he had on me. And to this day, I still follow him. Um, but then in the volleyball world, I think and he just retired, but John Cook, he was the coach at Nebraska. He won multiple championships at Nebraska and turned it into the #1 program in the nation. But why I looked up to him so much was he wasn't a volleyball player. And for me, yes, I was coaching volleyball all these years, but I always thought like, well, there's only so high I can get not having played the game myself competitively as when I was younger. And to watch him, who never played it competitively like that, win national championships, it's like, you know what, you can do it. And Kelly Sheffield's the same way at Wisconsin, another powerhouse, never played. And so it's to see guys like that can do it, that show me like, you know what, like I can do this. I think I actually am a better coach because I didn't play it. I had to learn the game older in my life, and I still try to learn stuff every day. And so I think they definitely showed me, that the sky is the limit, and don't don't sell yourself short just because you weren't a player.
Right, right. So, is there still any baseball in you when you coach?
That's a good question. Probably when I fight with the umpires or the referees, that's a baseball thing in me. But baseball, I feel like it's so different, and that it's slow. It's a lot
Hmm.
slower. It's a lot more Mickey Man's game, where it's volleyball's faster. But I think the chess game, baseball, there's a chess game. I think volleyball, there's a chess game. It's a different type of lineup, but I love playing lineups and be able to tinker our lineup and where we start. And I think that has come from baseball. I think that also comes from me being a math teacher for all those years. There's just so many games within the game of volleyball that you can play with. But overall, I think it would be harder to get me to go back and coach baseball now, just because I would never. I volleyball is just so quick, and baseball is just very slow, and it's just different. But that's why I love volleyball. It's high action, it's high energy, and it's in your face. And it's the number one growing women's sport, and we love how much attention it's gotten across the nation this year. And they had the national championship on ABC. Whoever would have thought that? And just overall, women's sports in general. Women's basketball has done so well, and we love it. We just love that that these women are getting the opportunity to showcase their abilities. And again, when we have our baseball team there, or our football team, they start to see it. And Sean Jackson came to our spring game. He was in there for a little bit watching, and I think he was amazed by just how athletic these women really are.
Okay. Well, I think too, though, a couple Olympics ago, when the U.S. women's volleyball team won the gold medal. You know, you had all those different stories. You had, this one woman was the most dominant player by far, and then she goes down, she gets hurt, and then so her teammates have to step up, and her teammates are holding it down while she's out, and then she comes back in the end, and it was all that drama and all these different storylines that were playing out that I think it held a lot of people's attention to what that team was doing. And then the style of play, they were going up against a perennial powerhouse, and it was going back and forth, and it was so exciting. I think that kind of helped elevate women's volleyball quite a bit.
And Karch, and he's another one that I look up to. And he actually just moved over to the men's side this year. He's going to take over the men, see if he can help the men win a medal. But he does a great job of building teams, and he said that year they out team the other teams. But something that he does that we borrowed, he doesn't call his bench the bench. He calls them game changers. And so when Jordan Thompson went down, their dominant player, it was okay. Annie Drews, you're a game changer. Let's go. And so that's something that we have adopted here. We don't call the bench. We call them game changers, because when they go in, they're going in for two reasons. One, because somebody got hurt, or two, because somebody's not playing well. And either way, their job is to change the game. And our girls have really bought into that, where I'm a game changer. I just got to be over here waiting, because when I go in, I'm going to change the game. And it's just a whole different mindset. But that's something that we stole from Karch, and it's been just invaluable. Just way to change their mindset.
Okay. Well, since you brought up mindsets, my one of the things I'm real heavy on is the mental health aspect of sports. And so, what do you do there at Delaware State as far as mental health for your athletes, and even for you, the coaches?
We're big, especially in the spring season. We're big on reading books. We read a book this year called Max Out Mindset for volleyball, and it's just about that. It's about taking care of confidence, about off the court stuff, mental health, suicide, all that stuff, and it's huge. And I think we do a lot of vulnerability exercises too, because everybody, when you're on a team, you think you have this team of women that everybody has a perfect life. And it's when you do those vulnerability exercises and everybody breaks down, and we make them say what their heartache of their life was. And I remember we did that, and that exercise, to me, we do it every year, but that does more than any practice the entire year. Like that tells me right then, I've had teams that do it, like the team this year, and they just cry their eyes out. And that tells me, okay, this team is ready to win the championship. But they get to see, like, okay, like, yes, my aunt just died, but over there, their grandma just died, and it lets them bond, and lets them see that, like, okay, this person's not perfect. And instead of coming into practice, and if they see somebody not working hard, instead of just getting on that person right away, hey, like, let me ask what's going on. Because it's not that that person's playing bad today or lazy because they want to be. It's because, hey, something just happened at home and they need that side of it. And so we definitely put a big emphasis on mental health. I think it's funny because that was literally the first question I got asked by the team when I came here on a visit. I did a Zoom call with the team, and what do you do about mental health, and what are your feelings on it? And it's real. I know. I think for a while there was a stigma about it that it's not real and all, but I think like Simone Biles really helped in that. And just when these pro athletes are coming out and talking about it, it lets other athletes know it's something you can talk about. It's a real injury. Just like you can be injured physically, you can be injured with mental health, and we take them both, seriously with it. But we do a lot of team bonding stuff. We're super excited. We have our libero last year. She'll be our grad assistant next year, but she's getting her master's in sports psychology. And so we're going to have an in-house sports psychologist next year for the first time. And, she asked, that's what she wants to do when she graduates. And, I said, yes, like, please, I want you working with our girls all the time. And she went through it this year. She was a kid that came in from another school, was supposed to be the starter as a fifth year. And, she didn't have the greatest year at first. She struggled at first, and we replaced her with a sophomore, which is probably crazy to think a fifth year got replaced by a sophomore. Not only that, but it was a fifth year who she played for me in high school. So everybody thought, like, that's his girl. He'll never replace her. And she had some days where she came in and, she was crying about it. And, my message to her was the same, like, stay with it, stay with it. It's a long season, stay with it. And this is going to make you better, long term. This is going to make you a better sports psychologist long term. And it just turns out at the end of the year, our sophomore ended up getting injured. So this girl steps back in and she has the weekend of her life. We don't win the championship without her. She has the best weekend ever and gets to go out on top. And, at the end of the year, it's not the year that she wanted, but it's the year that she needed to have. And I think it helped her because now next year, when she's talking to girls about what is it like to, doubt yourself, it's not, well, this is what the book says. This is what I felt last year, and this is how I got through it. And so we're definitely big on mental health, and I'm excited just to see how the effect that she'll have next year on her.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that's been a hot topic in intercollegiate athletics. When I've looked at various situations, it seems like there's a higher percentage of student athletes who are attempting or even unfortunately completing suicides than the general population on the campus. And so, maybe early on, because this has pretty much been a trend, and maybe early on, people weren't paying attention to what was happening. But I know it opened my eyes at a school that I have a relationship with. One of the student athletes committed suicide, and then I'm sitting up here. Somebody just happened to send me a link, and this student athlete is in a car talking, and then he puts a gun to his head and squeezes the trigger. Well, thank God that the round went over his head. And so I actually had an opportunity to talk to him shortly after that, and come to find out all these other athletes in the same athletic department have attempted suicides and all this, that, and he was real close with the girl that did commit suicide, and he was one of the last people she talked to, which she was trying to reach out for help. And so, that kind of, from that point on, that's been a main topic with me. Hey, what's happening? What are you doing to help your athletes? Because this thing is real. And, I personally, I don't think it should happen. And my message to everyone has always been, never take a permanent action for a temporary situation, because it's gonna, whatever the situation is gonna pass, and it will get better. But so I'm glad that you're taking steps in order to address that.
And we had an athlete, and I won't say what school she was from, we'll keep her anonymous, but that was considering And luckily she had some great teammates that, brought it to my attention. And, I ended up reaching out to that athlete and just spending some time with them. And it didn't hit me at that moment, but a year passed and she came back to me and she was like, she told me, like, that that night you called, that was the night I was going to do it. And she's like, so I just want to thank you for, being there and for me being here today. To me, that's the biggest win I'll ever get as a coach. I don't care how many championships I win from now. Hopefully I'll still win a lot. But that means nothing compared to that person is still here today. That's everybody's goal as a coach, just to change somebody's life and to, let them see that, like you said, it's temporary. And so we definitely take it seriously, and it's something we talk about. And the book that we were reading had those stats about how much more likely an athlete is, collegiate athlete, to commit suicide. And it's just, it's something that you do have to talk about, because then it helps them see, hey, it's not just me. It's okay to feel this way.
Yeah, because I mean, and you said your book kind of verified what I was saying. The other stat that I know the NCAA put out years ago was that student athletes who graduate are more likely to be successful than the general population on the campus. And so, that's actually something to look forward to, the success that you can enjoy and everything else if you just hang on and, hold out, just because as a student athlete, really student athletes are probably best prepared to address adversity than the general population.
They're
So,
much more. And I think that's a lot of the success that we have. I will put it solely on her shoulder, in that, we have an open door policy, but it is so much easier for an athlete to go see her because she's younger. She was in their shoes 3, 4, 5 years ago. I can talk about it, but I wasn't in your shoes 20 years ago. Times have changed. But, we've had many of girls that whenever they feel away, they go and talk to her, and she can tell them, like, look, this is what I went through. And they can see, okay, like, there is a way out of this, and it will get better. And, and so I like I can't thank her enough for the stuff that she's done. Just to work with our kids and to let them, know that there is somebody you can always talk to.
Right. Well, see, coach, you're getting kudos from your head coach now. So, and that's great that he has you there as an asset in that regard, because the student athletes who I talked to who attempted suicide, that's what they said, including the young man who had the gun. That's exactly what he said. I just didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to, and so like I said, to have somebody like you, and you just heard your head coach just give you those props. So congratulations for, like I said, once again, for being an assistant coach, because the first time I interviewed him, he didn't have one. he didn't have one. He had us feeling sorry for him because he was part-time and he had to work another job. So now everything's come full circle for him. So we're happy for you over at Delaware State, most definitely. And so I'm actually I'm going to give you both an opportunity to give shout outs, because she's the new one, so I'm gonna let her go first. And so you can shout out anybody you want to. If you want to shout out your second cousin's next cousin, or whoever.
I'll start with, hi, Mom. I'm sure she's watching and she'll watch later. She's definitely probably one of the biggest Dell State fans there is. But definitely a lot of credit to my mom. She played college volleyball, got me into the sport, and is the reason why I'm so passionate about today. And I, learn like this. I love my mom, so got to give her the first shout out. Second shout out would definitely probably be Coach Brooks. Truly, like he can give his kudos to me, but I'm giving it right back. Truly, he has been probably the most influential coach I've ever had. And I've had some great, I really am blessed. I've had great coaches. Even through the ups and downs. I've had some great coaches. But Coach Brooks definitely has been there for me since day one of tryouts at Carolina Juniors volleyball back in the day. And it's just been a great journey to be a player of his and to know that, I did what I had to do to get to the next level. And he even saw, the maturity and professionalism in me to be able to be, his partner at Dell State. So big shout out to Coach Brooks. I would really thank him for this opportunity. And then another shout out just to the team. The team, 2023 team and 2024 team. I just feel very passionate and I love them all so much. I feel like I'm assistant coach, but also / big sister. And they all, we have, humor in our team, personality, and they make just kind of coming on the job so much fun. And I moved up from South Carolina, just by myself, young adult. And, sometimes it's kind of overwhelming, but, coming into the gym with girls that, not only are great people, but amazing, committed individuals is amazing. And it's a blessing really to be around and a part of. And I don't know if they know how much they push me every day to get up and do the job that I have to do. So really just a shout out to the team and Dell State and everybody who touches our team. I'm very, thankful for all that they can bring for us. So
Okay. And I like that you went old school. First thing you said was thanks, Mom. 'Cause not that many who I interview who do that. So yeah, you went way old school on that one. And it's great too that you did mention that move that you made, because the Carolinas and Delaware, that's night and day.
yeah,
That's night and day.
definitely for sure. But it was an easy choice, I have to say. Knowing I was going to be helping Coach Brooks and coming in knowing we were taking over a great team. It was like I love volleyball. Coaching has been fun. Coaching a 14-year-old. So let's see how college goes.
Okay. Okay. Well, she threw it back to you, Coach. She gave you those props right there. So
And my shout out again, first off, I'll start off with shout out to the team. Because again, it would have been easy for them to look at this guy like who's coming in and but they bought it and they bought it from day one, even though it's like, oh, he won a championship, but it's at the B2 level. No, they welcomed up with open arms. And they bought in. It took us 2 years to do it, but we did it. And so, I'm just thankful that all of them worked as hard as they work in the gym, in the classroom, and just really believe to what what we're pouring into them. I think second one, shout out to my fiance. Coaching is not a 9-to-5 job, and she realizes that more. The higher level I go, the more she realizes it. But just because I bring a lot of work home, and I never leave anything to sleep. My phone's on at all times. We'll get phone calls in the weirdest times, but it's like, I have to take this. It's my athlete. She's been great with that. And then I think my final shout out is to my dad. It's been a rough year this year. I lost my dad last summer, unexpected. He had a brain bleed, a stroke, and he passed. And if you saw any of our games this year, you saw every game I was dressed up in a full suit. That's not me at all. But my dad loved to dress up. That was his thing. So, I said, you know what? I'm going to honor him every game, and I'm going to dress up in a suit. And I know he'll be looking down and watching us and smiling. And I did it from the first game to the last game. And, I know he was with us. And we had another player on our team that lost her dad. So we had a player who lost her aunt and another one who lost her grandma. So I knew we had a big old crowd up in heaven watching us and cheering us on. So, I was just thankful that, I could make him proud in what we did this year as a team.
All right. Okay. Well, definitely we'd like to offer our sympathies, on your loss and on the losses of the players for your team. This actually And I know I talked to several friends and relatives earlier this year. It's been a tough year. 2025, I think all the way around. I mean, I've lost relatives in 2025 and at the end of 2024, lost friends. And so this has been a very tough year all the way around. And, but, you know, I don't think anyone who transitioned will want us to stop. They want us to go on and to do great things. That's the best way to remember them is by doing great things. So, once again, you have our condolences on your losses.
Thank you.
But well, with that said, we definitely thank you for chatting with us today. This was a terrific chat as always, and I was definitely looking forward to it because I didn't get to talk to you last year. But I'm just amazed that things just happen the way that they happen, that you were able to go from one to another in very short time and win. And so that once again, that just proves that you have that winning pedigree in you. And you mentioned earlier too about your players not looking at it as, well, you won a championship at D2 and now you come into a D1, and it might. I know a coach, she was winning championships on the D1 level, went down to NAIA and continuing to win. I think that this was the first year she's been on the NAIA level that she didn't win a championship. And she switched conferences and was winning from one conference to the next conference. And it's just amazing. And so all of you HBCU coaches have amazing stories. And I think that the world at large needs to hear your story, and prospective athletes out there need to hear your stories, because you might be that perfect fit for them versus that PWI program where they might not get what you offer. So
yeah, we know, and we tell our recruits when they come on campus, especially transfers that are coming, from other schools. The girl we got that's coming from Lafayette, like, yeah, our facilities may not be as nice. We may not have as much money as them, but you're gonna get here coaches that love you, coaches that are gonna push you, coaches that are gonna find the greatness in you, and that's what the kids have bought into. And that's what we love, is that our athletes will be like, love, our coaches care about us. And that's, at the end of the day, that means more than having an extra pair of shoes at the beginning of the year, playing in a fancy gym. And so that's, and I can say the same about the other coaches in our conference. You can see each and every one of them care about these kids, and they want to make sure that they have the best experience.
Okay, all right. Well, Coach, we definitely, once again, thank you for coming on. Coaches, we thank you for coming on today. And once again, we did very much enjoy this. And I also want to thank you, the audience, for tuning in to this episode of Chat with HBCU Champions. We really value you. And we ask that you please like, share, and comment on the video. And also Google us on Google or any other search engine. Look for Rice Fame Group, and you will see our many social media offerings, our many platforms that we're on. So if you want a video podcast or an audio podcast, you will be able to find us. So with that said, once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, coaches. Thank you, audience. We really appreciate all of you, and have a blessed week.
Now I'm talking about young shakes. Chicago to represent. Jesse James. And this for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city, dog, I ain't never been a jumping. If he thinking I'm a on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city, dog, I ain't never been a chump. And if he thinking I'm a chump, watch him get his head up. For my city, cause I feel like I love her so much, like I owe her so much for supplying her touch. I will always respect her, I will never neglect her. That you hear her naming like every one of my records. No, I'm not stunting, ain't no future in your frontin', right? Gotta get this money, watch me get it all night. Planet flying top flight, higher than space stations. That's why I gotta grind, cause I need it and I hate waiting.